Thanks for joining us. This is The Economy. I am Ibrahim Sani. Today, we will be talking about the content standard of Malaysia. In the studio with me right now is Puan Mediha Mahmood, the CEO of Content Forum. Content Forum is, of course, launching a nationwide public consultation review on Malaysia's content code. The last time we've had this conversation was roughly about 5 years ago, wasn't it?
2022.
2022, 3 years ago. So it's every time a content code is being reviewed, it's always an opportunity for us to have a chat with Content Forum, with Mediha, of course. The public consultation ends on the 7th of November.
Yes.
Roughly about a week or so from now. And we want to understand a little bit better in terms of what has transpired so far in terms of the public consultation, and particularly on the process on addressing accountability on how we manage content per se. Maybe walk through us in terms of what the process has been and what learnings have you gotten so far before we conclude to that 7th of November date.
Okay. So in the beginning of the year, we already put out feelers. We had a public review where we opened up comments from the nation, from anyone who would like to say something about the content code, just to see, it's just a temperature check. And during that period, we got quite a bit of information. I think most of them were very concerned about AI, because in 2022, we did not see this coming. We did not see the whole AI-generated content thing coming in.
Yeah.
But what was also very clear was everyone was worried about child online protection. So that was also something that was raised. So from that exercise, we also sat down with the industry players within the Content Forum. As I'm sure you know, most of us are industry players, but there are also CSOs in there and academicians. And we sat down, went through the whole exercise again, and we wanted to make sure also one thing, we update ourselves with the amendments to the Communications and Multimedia Act. And yeah.
Okay, so this is the part where I want to say something that I don't have to rewatch our old interviews to remember the conversations that we've had, because you're rather a memorable guest to have on my show under the previous incarnation of Notepad. You were highlighting on the notion of self-regulation as being the key factor then. Is it still the case today?
It is, but I do have a qualifier there. Self-regulation has worked very well with the broadcasters and advertisers. We've done that for the past 20 years, and they're pretty much self-regulating quite well. I think the challenge comes when the content ecosystem has expanded to those on the internet. Because of the fact that we're no longer looking at push content, we're looking at anyone can be a content creator. We're looking at streaming platforms, we're looking at social media, and these are all on the internet. And the CMA clearly says in Section 3.3, there shall be no censorship of the internet. So whatever self-regulation or standards that we put has to consider that balance as well.
Yeah, speaking about that censorship on the internet, yet we've seen how this government has made requests, particularly to Meta and to ByteDance, i.e. TikTok, on taking down some content. How does that jive with the Act?
I believe the Act, Section 3.3, does not allow for pre-publication censorship. So that's still there. But there is always room for there to be flagged harmful content that needs to be taken down. And platforms will, I think YB Fahmi has said it himself, the decision to take down the content eventually sits with the platform, because they'll look at their community guidelines and see whether or not it is in breach of that. But the primary criteria for takedowns should always be if the content surpasses or goes into what is harmful to yourself, to someone else, or to a community. So
who decides? The platform decides what is considered harmful?
Yes, based on their community guidelines.
And then with this process right now on the review, is it going to be reflected as such, or it's going to be as is?
For us, the interesting thing about this round of revamping or revising the content code is that we've now got a new member on board. We have TikTok on board. So instead of just the industry deciding what platform accountability should be, we actually have a platform there to sort of discuss with us what those what those boundaries can be, or what is what they can and cannot do. At the same time, it was a very interesting process, because we whenever we have these sessions with the working group, everyone has their own perceptions of what needs to be done. Everybody has their own interests to protect. So it was a pretty lengthy and challenging process, but I feel that everybody in the end came to a conclusion that you cannot have zero accountability by the platforms. You can't say parents need to play a role, users need to play a role, and platforms doesn't have responsibility. They do. And that we've put them down as the fact that you have, again, no pre-publication censorship, but they are required to ensure like filtering, flagging, takedown mechanisms which are accessible, and also that if something is reported, something is harmful or illegal, there is a duty to take that down.
You know, election is coming up maybe a year, maybe 2 years from now, and we're going to see a lot more political content being shared online. By the way, I'll get to the child protection and AI later.
Right.
But on the notion of misusing or mishandling these kind of platforms, would there be some form of mechanism, at least in terms of how Content Forum looks at this particular idea?
Right.
In terms of people trying to take down content that they don't like, you know, it's more of a self-serving notion or a self-serving party, especially when it comes to political content. Does that mechanism have a place in our CMA?
In the content code, at least I can say that, you know, things like what we say is prohibited are hate propaganda or anything that incites harm against certain categories of people. But we also make it very clear things like criticism, satire, or public interest commentary is allowed and should be actually in democracy be encouraged as long as it doesn't intentionally incite hostility or target people based on those protected characteristics. So that is already there, at least in the content code.
Let's now move to the two areas that you spoke of, which is self-protection as well as portrayal of minorities. We start off with the latter, the discriminatory coverage of minority or portrayals of certain segments of society does translate to how society views those communities.
Yes.
And again, this is more of a metamorphosis of how content is being shared and done online. And of course, it's translated to other forms of content through media, through movies. How has this deteriorated? How far has this deteriorated? And more importantly, what are the changes that can be done from the ongoing public consultation exercise to actually stem this deterioration?
Okay, so I'll bring you back to in 2022 when we did this whole revision exercise. At that time, the focus was a lot on women and persons with disabilities because they were the vulnerable communities that we were looking at. So that's done. There are improvements there as well. But for this particular exercise, there have been two new things that have been added. For example, hate propaganda prohibits not just the advocating and promoting of hate and violence, etc. It also includes the facilitation or the enabling of such things because of the fact that we've added in the protected communities migrants and indigenous groups. Because what we've seen is a very disturbing trend where content targets migrants and immigrants and refugees, and they just lump it into one, and it spills over into real-life violence against these communities. So we are putting in the content code that there shall be no discrimination against this, there shall be no propagating or incitement of harm against this community, so that would be under hate propaganda and hate speech as well.
There's no champion that I can think of, because if you think about persons with disabilities, Senator Ras Adiba Radzi, for instance, comes into the picture or comes onto mind. There's also women support groups that fights for that particular group. I can't imagine minorities or immigrants having a champion to actually get this across. So this must be a self-elected affair on behalf of Content Forum to actually fight on their behalf.
I would have to also let you know that when we had the pre-public review in the beginning of the year, we did have these groups represented. The reason why I believe they're not spotlighted is because they're a very vulnerable community. Because there are among them who would be undocumented. There are among them who are already facing discrimination. So they're not exactly in a position to be such loud and brave advocates like women's rights and children's rights and persons with disabilities rights. But there are groups out there who are pushing for their rights. And those are the ones who came to us and said, why don't you take a look at this? So we did, and when we had chats with our working group, which involves media as well, we highlighted the fact the reason why they're making this something they're recommending is because they've seen, for example, some news coverage being very blatant in their discrimination against migrants, immigrants, refugees, etc., which then spills over into affecting their communities.
Another area of concern is, of course, child protection. Under the Child Act 2001, it's spelled clearly in terms of how we need to protect the rights of children, their identities, how we prosecute them, and so on. And it's rather familiar. Everybody gets used to it. If not before, it is already now. How are things different today in terms of ramping up the protection of children online, especially on how content is being served?
Yeah, and you've nailed it right there. We used to have parents and guardians being worried about children being exposed to content on TV or gaming, etc. Now all their worry, most of it is concentrated on online. So one of the biggest change, and there's quite a bit on child online protection, one of the biggest change is that we have said it's not just looking at content that is targeted for children. you need to look at content which is appealing to children and where children are likely to go. So that includes gaming platforms, that includes content that is categorized as you, for example, and that includes internet spaces where children are likely to go. So this also includes the fact that we want child sensitivity to be built into the design. So that's something that we put in as well, built-in protections, and also encouraging default privacy settings for children in mind. So it's, instead of saying, you know, this is what you get, if you want it to be safer, then toggle that. It should be safe already. If you want beyond it, then toggle it. Maybe have age assurances to get there.
Is it practical to be implemented and executed, especially on some platforms like, say, for instance, Snap or IG or TikTok, where there are more children there than ever?
Exactly. So that's the whole point of our content standards. It's not something that we can enforce, but we're hoping to make it normalized as such that it's built into the mechanisms and it's built into the muscle memory of all these platforms to have that in mind. And it's not something that's unique to what we're doing. All over the world, it's the same kind of things that are being lobbied for. So hopefully, as an industry in Malaysia, at least we're saying, yes, these are the standards that we expect.
There's two things that might propagate this. Number one is commercialization of the element of this.
Yep.
Another one is the support from consumers to actually perpetuate child-sensitive content or disregard towards child safety.
Yep.
Are these two areas of concerns being addressed, or could it be addressed from Content Forum's point of view?
Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Like, for instance, the sale of pornographic material, for instance. Another one is on, we see child-sensitive content being served to adults, and there's little to no mechanism to allow for adults to report on it.
Yeah.
Those are the two elaborations.
Yes.
Yeah,
so one of the things, or there's quite a few actually, one of the things that we are also pushing for is the flagging and also accessible reporting, not just for adults but also children themselves, to have, you know, child-friendly accessibility to reporting. That's very rare that we've seen. At the same time, I also have to put it very clear, and we put that down as well, that we can't put all our focus on legislation and regulations and self-regulation by the industry. That's something that is a given. We need to do that. But from what we've seen on ground, it's also the parents' involvement in using these features. It's not enough that we have it, it's the parents who actually have to use it, number one. Number two, we also see that parents these days might not be aware of the actual dangers that the children are facing online. They understand about social media, they're worried about trends, but we are now looking at situations where children are also having relationships with AI companions. There's also a situation of digital grooming with AI apps. So we're hoping to really reach into that space because it's relatively new. And if we can lobby for greater protection for children in AI, at least, then that's something that we want to work for.
See, this is the reason why you're a great guest to have, because I remember vividly as if I had this conversation with you yesterday. Both of us have not so much young children, but children that are very savvy online.
Yes.
And instead of taking devices away from their hands, both of us, I guess, discussed that it's better to coach them and manage those kind of platforms accordingly. Now, in that sense, both of us are in sync on how we intend to raise our children accordingly. I'm not too sure if the rest of Malaysia has the same viewpoint as us. The worst case scenario is sticking your head in the sand like an ostrich and take away the devices. On the other hand is unfettered access, and parents themselves are busy with their own lives and they have no supervisory oversight altogether onto their children's online behavior. There has to be some middle ground here, right? And where do you see parents or adults and guardians play a role in enforcing some form of check towards a community of children being online?
Yeah, it's the same conundrum that we find ourselves in whenever we do advocacy work with parents and guardians. It's the two extremes. Either they just say no devices whatsoever, which to me is also unfair because these are literal digital natives. You can't stop them from accessing the internet because that's also where they socialize, they learn, they play.
My children flirt with their classmates on Microsoft Teams because that's the device.
Exactly.
It's bizarre, but it is what
it is. What it is.
It is what it is.
It's just like, you know, you can stop your child from accessing inappropriate content. But they can use Zoom for that. They just share screens. They use Discord for that. There's so many other platforms for them to go to. So I understand the concern about social media, people wanting to say, okay, we need to have, curb Meta, Instagram, TikTok, etc., Facebook. Kids are not on Facebook, by the way. But you also have to look at the fact that they will be exposed to these things on other platforms that we might not even know exist.
Yeah.
And they're there. So the key thing here is to make sure that our kids are equipped with not just the digital literacy, but also the savviness and critical thinking. So whichever platform they go to, they know how to protect themselves. And that comes with conversations.
Yeah, but parents don't know ChatGPT. My day job with Yayasan Penaju, we went into an area where we had a lot of scholars there, their children. And one of our facilitators asked the kids, how many of you use ChatGPT for homework? Nearly all of them raised their hands. And the teacher was asking that facilitator, what is ChatGPT?
Oh dear.
Now this is, sorry, if you guys weren't aware, the cameraman is laughing behind the screen. This is how bad it got, right? So,
oh dear.
Talk about digital literacy. I'm talking about the adults who don't even know what platforms exist, let alone AI and all that. This is how fast the situation is.
And that's worrying because ChatGPT is sort of regulated, or it is controlled. They're self-regulating.
Yeah.
There are certain things that you cannot prompt and get. But there are several, they promote themselves as uncensored, unregulated, unfiltered AI, which the kids are using. The kids are not using ChatGPT. They're using other AIs, which allow them to do basically anything. And these are unregulated, unfiltered, and promoted as such.
And is there any form of mechanism you think, maybe Content Forum might not necessarily be involved in this, but, or you can't, right?
I don't know. I mean, we've been getting so much feedback because we're doing this public consultation, right? So people are giving us so many ideas. They say maybe we should...
It's double-edged sword, this whole public consultation. You ask 1,000 cooks, hey, how do you make a dish?
Exactly. And they've got everything in mind. And they're saying maybe we should block it from the store, the App Store and Samsung Store or Google Play Store. Or maybe we should block it at the device itself. Maybe we should start offering devices which are already blocking everything unsafe and then just give kids access to filtered internet and apps. That's an idea, but it's something that the entire world is grasping at straws trying to do right now. And I think it will continue to be a challenge. I mean, Malaysia's got the Online Safety Act. We're about to see what the instruments look like and see what the approach is there. And every other country is coming up with the same.
But the best approach, in my opinion, is still on education and learning how to use those devices and content accordingly.
I absolutely agree.
No amount of censorship can make the world a safer place.
Yes, because people who go against censorship will find ways against it. And kids are very good at that.
Yes, I know. I use what do you call this?
Family Link?
No. What do you call this?
You wouldn't use Family Link.
The lockdown thing. I forgot the name. Sleep mode. Sleep mode.
Yes.
Yeah, my very smart daughter uses Chrome.
Shh, don't tell them.
No. And I thought I'm a responsible dad, nothing is happening. And I use Chrome, no problem. Because Chrome doesn't have that, they circumvent that.
And that's what I tell the parents. Sleep mode, okay, good. At least you're having some effort there. But you know your kids might circumvent that. The easiest way is just to take their devices with you.
And, well, that is,
but
but
supposed to sleep, right?
Okay, another area of concern is, of course, AI, and I want to deep dive in this. I was rather upset that I was not part of those AI deep videos of me having sexual relations with a man.
You were disappointed?
I am disappointed because that means I'm not up to the mark yet.
Oh my God!
Because who has seen themselves in that video?
You in FOMO.
FOMO.
I would never have thought.
There's also phobia, fear of being included, but which is a real thing now apparently. But jokes aside. It is so pervasive that it's now becoming a joke that people, if it's a very disconcerting video, the first reaction is always, is it even real?
Yeah.
This is how people react nowadays, and the question now is, should we have more controls? Because I don't think you can stem this. What used to be an overflow of fake is now a dam that is being broken.
Yes.
And I don't think any effort, commendable or otherwise, meaningful or not, is going to stop this. So how do we live in a post-AI world?
We're all struggling to see that. And I think the first thing people are doing, and what we're also doing, is requiring labeling. That's like the basic rule: label AI generated content. But even then, it can't be all AI generated content. So what we've done is that platforms need to allow for transparency at source, meaning that if you put AI, you need to label it as such. And things like simple use of AI to make yourself look better, grammar checks into tak payah nak disclose. But things which can mislead the public, can mislead people into purchasing content, things could lead to instability, stuff like that, that needs to be prohibition against all that. But again, it goes back to digital literacy and now AI literacy. Because right now we have a really big problem in trust. People don't trust things anymore. We have people who are questioning videos that come, for example, from Gaza and asking whether or not that's AI generated or claiming it's AI generated. We have people putting in deep fakes of politicians and believing it, and people who are seeing the genuine ones and not believing it. It's a real mess, and I think the biggest problem that we are looking at is that there's going to be a huge trust issue with the media, whatever media that comes to you.
And I don't think we can solve it.
Very defeatist to think so, but I'm hoping that we can find a way to do that, and at the same time we can't not do anything about it.
So I played a nice little game with my 3 children, real or AI. So it's rather simple, straightforward thing. There's a video, 2 videos showing similar content. One is AI, one is real. The kids got it 10 over 10. I got it maybe 8 over 10.
Not bad.
Not bad. But I feel that the younger generation have it in themselves inbuilt to distinguish.
Yes.
And it's us, the 40-somethings, the 50-somethings that have to grapple with this. So, yeah, I sound defeatist because I am. And I feel that nothing with the limited resources and the effort and the time that you have, perhaps it's better to do other stuff, like protecting minorities or children and stuff like that. AI content is going to be there. Yes. In fact, you alluded to something quite interesting also and that I want to bring in, which is, of course, AI companion. This will be the way forward.
It is. It already is.
Yeah. I mean, if it's so difficult and complicated to have relations with a human being and an AI removes that notion and you are having the same satisfactory level, the dopamine and the endorphins are being released in the same way as you would with another human being, why not AI companion?
Oh, there's a list of why nots.
All right, let's go. Let's go through the list. Yeah,
I mean, come on. You're basically removing humans from relationships altogether.
And that is bad because
I don't know. Well,
nampak?
No. The mental health issues that come with having a companion, which you can't actually live with.
No, you can program it. I got mental health issues. There's always improvements,
but
right?
There's no human touch unless you wait for robots or humanoids or whatever, right?
Give it a few more years.
It's probably going to happen. But we already see what's happening with the number of cases where teenagers end up in a relationship with AI and find themselves in a situation of suicidal ideation and being encouraged to, there are people who have died by suicide. So that's one huge example of how it can actually be a life and death matter. But at the same time, we're already looking at situations where when the gaming thing came about, a lot of jokes about men sitting in their dark room with a bag of Doritos and then just gaming the whole one and isolation entirely. So when you put AI companions into the mix, the problem of an aging population with no new generations coming in is going to be a problem.
And then, of course, this ties in with the whole idea of living with AI being a key factor on how we build content. Are you optimistic in seeing some form of reasonable value coming out of the public consultation, particularly on with regards to AI, which between the 3 ideas that we talked about, I am more of no restrictions whatsoever. This is me.
Yep.
But do you feel that kind of AI approach is being considered quite well by the public in their address to you? Or content forum.
Yes. So one of the key things that has been out there is the fact that whatever it is, even if you use AI, if you generate with AI, the humans behind the AI will bear responsibility for whatever happens next. So using AI is not a defense against anything. So that's one. Number 2, there is an expectation for at least some level of control, either in labeling or repercussions for those who are exploiting AI for nefarious means, for like misleading or inciting harm, etc. But I think the biggest thing that we need to do after this public consultation, after hopefully the content code gets registered and is implemented, is the AI literacy thing that we need to be doing with members of the public. Because like you said, from the very beginning, online safety, etc., like even the campaigns that MCMC is doing and so many other people are doing, we need to equip people with the tools to make sure that they can use AI without being, lied to or being misled.
Let's talk about the commerce side.
Okay.
Because of influencer marketing and online advertising, we see how many of these platforms have bundled their shopping with the content. And we saw how countries like Indonesia, for instance, is managing that aspect in their own content forum equivalent.
Yes.
How is content forum approaching that side of the element in terms of commerce and shopping on this content forum?
Yeah. So the biggest concern with content with regards to commerce is, number one, is the advertising, and number two is the fact that sometimes they can sell things which are actually illegal to be sold. So that and that can be bought by almost anyone. Like if you give your child or teenager access to your Touch 'n Go card, or you keep reloading their whatever wallets, right? They are able to order things online without you knowing. If it just arrives home, they can take it, and then you don't know. And there's so many things that they are accessing online.
Like what, drugs, outright drugs?
Yes, outright drugs. And the government is doing their very best to do this, and they've raided and taken action against quite a lot. But the fact of the matter is, the platforms also need to step up as well to identify this. I don't know if you can use AI to identify these things, but again, I have to add, the sellers are very creative. You will look at certain things and you think it's absolutely kosher, but there is a separate platform where they discuss, you can buy this on this e-commerce platform, and then you go look for the exact thing. You can search for the code, etc. And it goes from anything from drugs to other things which you don't want your children to have access to, or even we're not allowed to have access to.
Yeah, but then again, OnlyFans is also there, and they use links upon links and an account to support that links and then so on.
Yes, it's a whole ecosystem.
Yes.
It's very hard. It's very hard.
And, it's worth saying that it's not new. Back in the olden days, we've had antiviruses companies like McAfee, Kaspersky, who would untrick a trick that has been done. So malactors would have a trick and they would do the untrick, and it's a perpetuating thing.
Yes.
I can see this as being a perpetuating notion as well. The only thing that can stop people from doing this is either better recognition of education or harsher and stiffer penalties.
That's probably it. I think probably is the combo.
Especially when it comes to illegal content. Okay, that's illegal, which is easy to untangle. But the not legal or outright legal items, especially when it comes to influencer marketing, where false claims can be subjectified. You would like that lipstick more than I would, therefore you would hypersell it, even though that lipstick in general people wouldn't find it to be good, for instance. But because of the popularity of the influencer and so on and so on. So how do you see this as being, I guess, regulated?
Right. So that one, internationally, the rule is you need to disclose. The moment you are being paid to do content, you need to disclose that you're being paid to do content.
But there's no penalty to not disclose.
Well, right now for us, we can penalize the brands who do this, but the influencers are not exactly regulated. Of course, we can go the other route of going to Section 233 of the CMA, and I'm not a big fan of weaponizing it for these kind of things. So again, for us, it's also reaching out to the influencers to let them know that this is the way that they're supposed to do things. And we've seen influencers using that because platforms already have the toggle. You put sponsored or ads, etc., right? Or collabs. So just a simple act of disclosing should be promoted or encouraged further.
Mediha, thank you very much for sharing with us some of your thoughts. It's also always interesting to see how a lawyer like yourself works with the intangibles like content. I don't envy it, but you're doing a great job. You're doing an awesome job. If you would like to make a call out for the public to address, how do they go about it?
I would really love for it if anyone and everyone out there would just go to our website, contentforum.my. The public consultation is there. You can see everything from AI to hate speech to everything there. And anything else that you think we've missed, please let us know. We'll be very happy to discuss it further.
So the deadline is on November 7th, 2025. So if you want to have a say in it, now's the time.
Yes.
That's it from me. You've just heard earlier from Mediha Mahmood, the CEO of Content Forum. Until then, thanks very much for watching. Catch you in the next one.